Movements and Martyrs, God of the powerless child, God of the hurt and the hopeless and unreconciled, God of the just and the faithful, God of the night and the day, God of the whole of creation, in your name we pray. Many have followed the Savior into the face of the storm, strengthened by long generations, by love they were formed. In basements, tall steepled churches, in shadows of fences and walls, in alleys and hallways of power, they answered your call.
Now it's our turn to do justice. Humbly we rise to the day. Give us the strength and the wisdom to walk in your way. Gather the loaves and the fishes, share until all have been fed. Walk in compassion and mercy, by love we'll be led. Standing in circles surrounding, all holding hands while we pray. When powers bear down on the helpless, we'll stand in the way.
God of the worn and the wounded, let us be healed by the truth. When doorways are blocked, we will lower our friends through the roof.
God of the circle that holds us, God of the ones pushed away, we will reach out to our neighbors, in your name we'll say. No matter your creed or your country, no matter the hue of your skin, your age, who you love, or the body your soul was born in. No matter the places you're broken, no matter the things you have done, lay down that weight on the altar, a new day's begun.
You are a child of the Maker,
You are beloved and known.
Join us in work of the kingdom, we welcome you home. Join us in work of the kingdom, we welcome you home.
The second verse of our opening song boldly claims and confidently prays, "Now it's our turn to do justice. Humbly we rise to the day. Give us the strength and the wisdom to walk in your way." Here at Cedar Community, we seek to join in this song, this claim, and this prayer as we manifest our mission to model Christ's love for humanity by creating life-enhancing relationships, services, and environments. A warm welcome to everyone viewing this service, our residents, families, team members, members of our surrounding communities, and our friends and neighbors near and far. My name is Nicole Pretry, and it is my honor to serve as the CEO of Cedar Community and to welcome you virtually to this commemoration of the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We all have a part to play in realizing the kind of society Dr. King dreamed of, worked for, and ultimately died in the struggle for. At Cedar Community, we are striving to be more informed and intentional about how we can contribute to an inclusive community that celebrates and supports the diversity of our workforce, our residents, and our community and business partners. A little over a year ago, our board of directors authorized the formation of a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force to explore the things we are doing well and what we could do differently to create and maintain a truly welcoming community. Through the work of this task force, we have retained a third-party consultant to guide us through a thorough audit of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Cedar Community to help us identify goals and to support our journey to achieve those goals. We are very pleased and privileged to have Deborah Biddle, founder and chief consultant of The People Company, serve as our guest speaker for this service. Debbie has more than 25 years of corporate, consulting, nonprofit, and small business experience. As a certified diversity professional, she strengthens organizations by helping individuals and leaders at all levels to understand and move toward a more inclusive environment. As Debbie has said, there is always a way to make someone else feel more included. We can create a better community and culture wherever we are. Developing an inclusive mindset helps people think better, do better, and be better at what most importantly matters. As we share in this service together, and as we hear from Debbie more about why diversity and inclusion matter, may each of us, individually and together, humbly rise to the day. And may we commit ourselves to building a more inclusive community wherever we are.
As we read through the services today, I would encourage and invite you to read with myself and all the readers where you see all in the program today. Here are some gathering words for us. Called together in the midst of our diversity, we struggle to welcome our differences. Called to be inclusive, we are more comfortable with people who are like us. Called to be equitable, we resist change and maintain a fear of scarcity. Creating God, remind us again, diversity is a reflection of your expansive spirit. Inclusion is a mark of your beloved community. Equity is your vision for your creation. Enable us to embrace our diversity, not to divide, but rather to draw us closer to you, closer to each other, and closer to who you would have us to be.
Let us all pray this prayer for our community together. Holy One, teach us to honor the inherent dignity in every person, realizing that although we are not created with the same image, we are all created in your holy image. Bless us with the wisdom and the recognition that we can disagree without becoming disagreeable, that we can battle ideas without battling people, and that our minds can carry differences of opinions, but only if we are united as one. Oh God, channel our hearts so that they pulsate love and empathy rather than emit hatred and apathy. Focus our eyes so that they see the unrealized potential rather than focusing on the obvious limitations. Tune our voices so that they speak words and sing songs of unity and empowerment, rather than tones of discord and division. Guide our hands and feet so that they become your instruments of kindness and peace, rather than tools of cruelty and destructiveness. Help us fulfill the unique purpose for which you created us, each in our own way, by becoming your ambassadors of love and goodness in your world. Today, more than yesterday, at every moment, in every place, and with every person we encounter. Amen.
How beautiful our spacious skies, our amber waves of grain, our purple mountains as they rise above the fruitful plain. America, America, God's gracious gifts abound, and more we're grateful for life's bounty all around. Indigenous and immigrant, our daughters and our sons, oh, may we never rest content till all are truly one. America, America, God grant that we may be a sisterhood and brotherhood from sea to shining sea. How beautiful sincere lament, the wisdom born of tears, the courage called for to repent, the blood shed through the years. America, America,
a perspective on diversity. In the conflicts between human and human, between group and group, between nation and nation, the loneliness of the seeker for community is sometimes unendurable. The radical tension between good and evil as humankind sees it and feels it does not have the last word about the meaning of life and the nature of existence. There is a spirit in humans and in the world working always against the things that destroy and lay waste. Always we must know that the contradictions of life are not final or ultimate. We must distinguish between failure and a many-sided awareness so that we will not mistake conformity for harmony, uniformity for synthesis. We will know that for all people to be alike is the death of life in humankind, and yet perceive harmony that transcends all diversities and in which diversity finds its richness and significance.
Hello, Cedar Community. I am Deborah Biddle, the founder and chief consultant at The People Company. I and my team will be working with you on diversity, equity, and inclusion at Cedar Community in 2022. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about why MLK Day is so important to me, and also talk to you a bit about our organization and why diversity, equity, and inclusion matter. I was born 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. It was in the year of my birth that Dr. King delivered a speech at the New York Civil War Centennial Commission's Emancipation Proclamation observance that included these words: "The Declaration of Independence proclaimed to a world organized politically and spiritually around the concept of inequality of man, that the dignity of human personality was inherent in man as a living being. The Emancipation Proclamation was the offspring of the Declaration of Independence. It was a constructive use of the force of law to uproot a social order which sought to separate liberty from a segment of humanity. There is but one way to commemorate the Emancipation Proclamation. That is to make its declaration of freedom real, to reach back to the origins of our nation when our message of equality electrified an unfree world and reaffirmed democracy by deeds as bold and daring as the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation." As a young girl, Dr. King and the civil rights movement captured my imagination. He and the movement were a source of inspiration, a call to serve, and a source of pride in being what we called colored in the 60s, Black in the 70s, and African-American in the 80s up to today. So I am excited and honored to be with you virtually as we gather together to celebrate Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and to acknowledge the legacy he left for each of us to help somebody as we pass along, to cheer somebody with a word or a song, to show somebody that they're traveling wrong and our living will not be in vain. I want to share my screen with you now so we can talk a bit about what I mentioned earlier, why diversity, equity, and inclusion matter. So let's jump in. In thinking about MLK Day and why it's so important, I want to remind you, those of you who may not remember, that in the US, we celebrate this day on the third Monday of January, where we honor the life and the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. MLK Day was established as a day to honor the achievements of this Baptist minister, orator, scholar, and civil rights leader. He advocated for nonviolent resistance against racial segregation The day serves as a reminder of the sacredness of humanity and Dr. King's belief that desegregation and racism are in fact human rights issues. Dr. King laid a foundation for the work that we do today at the People Company. He wanted to root out desegregation and racism because of the dehumanizing effect on the oppressor as well as the oppressed. And today in our work at the People Company, we talk about this in terms of valuing differences and appreciating culture. We talk about providing access to what each person needs in order to have workplace, societal, and racial equity. And we talk about co-creating welcoming, inclusive environments that create a sense of belonging for every person, regardless of their background and experiences. At the People Company, we help people think better, do better, and be better at what matters most. We help people think better because we understand the relationship between our level of thinking and our level of progress. We believe that where we are today is a result of our thinking yesterday. And likewise, where we are tomorrow is governed by what we think today. Changing behavior and culture begins with changing the way we think. We help people do better because we understand that elevating practices, policies, and procedures in ways that improve equity and inclusion for us all requires our active participation. It requires practicing behaviors and systematically and consistently teaching the behaviors to those within our sphere of influence, so we create and sustain cultures of belonging. We help people be better because we understand the value of sustaining a culture of belonging. We know that inclusive behaviors are critical for removing barriers that keep us from realizing individual connection, acceptance, respect, and fulfillment, as well as improved organizational well-being, diversity, equity, inclusion, efficiency, productivity, profitability, and innovation. When we talk about better, we value the unique circumstances and goals for every client, every person that we work with. We work with our clients to imagine high-performing environments, and we work to develop solutions to help people realize their what-if goals, to help organizations understand, realize all of the possibilities that they want to have as a result of this equity and inclusion we talk about. Together, we work to clearly define what matters most for achieving client diversity, equity, and inclusion vision of success, so we can move toward creating their unique strategy and create those plans and actions that are going to result in the kind of workplace, the kind of community that they want to have. So we do that through my team of folks. There are a couple of us who are in Madison, Sugar Grove, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Milan, Italy, as well as California. And they are Allison Cooley, who's our lead facilitator and consultant, Pilar Chaparro, who is a DEI consultant and speaker, Lloyd Biddle, who is our VP of Marketing and Leadership Coach, Tyrone Craddock Williams, who is a DEI consultant, facilitator, and trainer, Jared Biddle, who is a DEI associate facilitator and speaker, and Victoria Blackwell, who is a DEI consultant and data analyst. So that's our team, and we're excited to work with you. Most of us will touch your project in some way, but not every person, but you will feel, if not see, and interact with several members of our team. So with diversity, equity, and inclusion, you've probably heard these words for a while. The practice of DEI started back formally, I would say, as far back as the 1980s. But lately, we've been hearing it a lot in terms of social justice, in terms of civil rights, in terms of workplace equity and inclusion, and even more recently in the last 3 to 5 years because of all the things that have happened in our society. And so intuitively, we know that inclusion, equity, and diversity matter, but we ask ourselves why? Why does it matter from a business perspective? Why does it matter educationally? Why does it matter from a community perspective? Why are those 3 words so important? And we know that we have moved past the old days when I started working, when you checked a box on a form that said female, married or single or divorced, and you checked what age category you're in. We think bigger than that and more broadly when it comes to diversity these days. When we talk about diversity, we're really talking about how we're going to serve people and how through serving this unique and rich, diverse body of people will lead to a better environment and overall performance for our organizations and our communities. When we talk diversity, we tend to think about race, gender, age, marital status, but it's really broader than that. Diversity is the wide range of differences that exists among people. We talk about it in ways that limit our thinking most of the time, but I want to expand that a little bit and have you look at this diagram here and think about the dimensions of diversity or levels of diversity. This wheel has 5 of them. The innermost level being our identity. That's about who we are, how we see ourselves, how other people see us. It's the most unique aspect of our diversity. The primary level is the level that is inherent, the things about us that is least likely to change or that are least likely to change over time, like our ethnicity, our race, our gender, our age, our physical and mental abilities, those things that are consistent about us. The secondary dimension or level is the acquired diversity. That's the things that we learn over time, that we change over time, like our communication style, our education level, our spiritual or religious beliefs, language, cognitive style, appearance, our marital status or relationship status, our military experience. The next level is the organizational level or dimension, and that's about where we find ourselves, whether it's within school, what grade we are, how long we've lived in a community, what our tenure is at our workplace, whether we're a manager or an entry-level person, what our geography might be, what location we're in. And then that last piece is the cultural level, which is more about how we engage with people. It's our frame of reference around time. Are you the kind of person that thinks of time as if you're on time, you're late, or nothing starts till you get there? Or are you conflict averse, or do you like a little give and take with folks? Are you more competitive or cooperative? Do you value your personal space, or would you rather be involved with a whole lot of people all the time? Do you want to work as a team or an individual? Do you like structure, or do you prefer flexibility? These are the kinds of diversity that we should consider when we talk about what that word means. When we're thinking about the case for diversity, or again, why diversity, equity, and inclusion matters, one thing we have to recognize is that the world is changing. Women are the largest emerging market of consumers that the world has ever seen. And in the US alone, 83% of all consumable income is spent or influenced by women. So that's hugely significant. In 2020, US non-white children became the majority. By 2044, the Census Bureau predicts that there will be no one racial or ethnic group that will dominate the US in terms of size. And by 2060, we are predicting that the percent of non-white Hispanic children will drop just under 1/3 for all children under 18. So there is a huge shift in what our future generations are going to look like. When it comes to immigration, we know that by 2028, the foreign-born share of US population is projected to be higher than at any time since the year 1850. And by 2030, immigration is projected to become the primary driver of population growth in the US. And more people are projected to be added to the population through net international migration than from natural increase. So that's another hugely significant piece of why we're going to see these changes in our world and our culture. Then the fastest growing racial or ethnic group in the United States is people who are 2 or more races. They're projected to grow by 200% in the year 2060, by the year 2060. And then the next fastest group is the Asian population, which is expected to double, followed by the Hispanic population, which is expected to double within the next 4 decades. So that's, again, significant. And then we have a world that's getting younger and older all at the same time. By 2030, 1 in 5 Americans will be 65 years or older. That 65-year and older population is projected to nearly double by 2060. And then the number of people over 85 years and older is expected to double by 2035. So right around the corner, we're expecting to see a large number of older people, which is going to affect the products and services, and the way we think about family and community is all going to change based on some of these demographic pieces of information. And then the other piece that we cannot ignore, and we know to already be true, is that we work and live in a more global place. It's more complex than it ever has been before, and that's largely due to technology. So these factors contribute to why, whether we're in rural America or in urban America, we are facing the reality that our world is becoming more diverse every day. The world is changing every day. And so we have to grapple with what diversity, equity, and inclusion means for us personally, as well as a larger society in our workplaces, our neighborhoods, our schools, and so forth. When it comes to seniors, things we need to think about are that as the senior population grows, so does diversity in that population. I already gave you the population growth numbers, but here's a few more things to think about. Between 1990 and 2030, the increase in population age 65 plus will be 131% among African Americans, 147% among Native Americans, 285% among Asians and Pacific Islanders, and 328% among Hispanic Americans. That is huge growth. And that's 8 years from now, we're expected to see those huge numbers. Cultural beliefs shape social norms and values surrounding the aging process and the role of older people. So we have to consider that information as well. Beliefs about aging aren't static. They shift and change as society evolves, just like they do with any other age demographic. Learning about other cultures helps us to understand different perspectives within the world in which we live. So that's going to be true whether we're 20 or whether we're 80. And it helps us to dispel negative stereotypes and personal biases about different groups of folk. And then cultural diversity allows us to recognize and respect ways of being that aren't necessarily our own. So beyond the age demographics, we know that diversity, equity, and inclusion matters to employees. People are asking the question, should I work here? Is this a place where I see myself in leadership? Do I see myself being successful here? Are there other folks who look like me, who come from my background, have my shared experiences in the workplace? And this is important whether you're a baby boomer, a Gen Xer, a millennial, or a Gen Z. The data shows that employees and employers alike are taking a strong stance on diversity, equity, and inclusion because they believe that it allows them to grow and learn more effectively, that it's essential for their success, and that because customers are diverse, they need to improve and remain competitive, and diversity, equity, and inclusion helps them to do that. Diversity and inclusion is what teams want. It's what people want because we all want to be treated fairly. We want to have equal access to opportunity. Most of us believe that teamwork and collaboration are better when we have diverse groups, and the research bears that out. There's a focus on innovation and creativity when we have diversity and inclusion, and there's greater organizational flexibility, responsiveness, and agility. When we have inclusive workplaces, we have a better reflection of the communities we serve and where we do business. We have better identity with our multicultural clients and neighbors. We engage a diverse representation of people in our work and where we live. We have increased innovation, productivity, and revenue. We have greater flexibility and adaptability in a globalized world. We have reduced turnover costs, prevention of marginalization and exclusion of workers and community members, and we have a more positive public image. So important for us is to value diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when we do that, that means we're honoring and respecting personal, social, and cultural diversity that's reflected in every person. Diversity behaviors include treating people with dignity and respect, focusing not on what divides us, but rather on the common ground we share, respecting our differences and working together as a team, working together as a community, and looking beyond the stereotypes and preconceptions that we have about different categories of people. A culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion means that we work together to create an atmosphere of openness and acceptance, that we respect the property, the dignity, privacy, and confidentiality of others, and that we're providing equal opportunity to every person to fully engage themselves in creating an environment and a cultural attitude whereby everyone and every group fits, feels accepted, has value, and is supported by a foundation built on trust and mutual respect. Those are kind of the basics of what most of us want in society and community and in our workplaces. So I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts before I go. And one is just to thank you for taking the time to listen today. I pray that you have been uplifted, encouraged, and blessed and challenged to think better and do better and be better, to make progress towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm hoping that you don't allow adversity or controversy to keep you from answering the call to participate in this work, to live out the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and to keep moving forward. In his words, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And I'll leave you words to one of his favorite songs. It says, if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that they're traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain.
On March 25, 1965, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a speech from the steps of the state capitol in Montgomery, Alabama, following the historic march from Selma demanding voting rights for people of color. King stressed the need to eradicate the normalcy of society at that time, which denied the dignity and worth of all of God's children. He asked the question other people were asking, how long? And he answered from the assurance of his conviction, not long. In a tragic testament to the deep-seated nature of that normalcy, we acknowledge that nearly 6 full decades after King gave that speech in Montgomery, legislators in Washington, D.C. are still debating voting rights legislation. Indeed, King's family recently issued a suggestion that there be no celebration without legislation. As we commemorate the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we also acknowledge that much of his dream is yet to be realized, and much work remains to create the normalcy he called us to, the normalcy of brotherhood and sisterhood, the normalcy of peace, the normalcy of justice. And so, perhaps we too need to hear the encouraging words he shared from the steps of the Alabama State Capitol in 1965, when he said, I know you are asking
today, how long will it take? Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, yes, sir, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth crushed earth will rise again. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. Yes, sir. Because no lie can live forever. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Because you shall reap what you sow. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yes, that scaffold sways the future. Behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. How long? Not long. Because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. How long? Not long. Not long. Because mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He's trampling out the village where the grapes of wrath are stored. He's loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Let us dedicate our lives to building the beloved community, diverse, inclusive, and equitable, whoever we are and wherever we are, because we struggle to welcome our differences. This day and every day, let us recognize the sacred dignity and worth of every person, because we are more comfortable with people who are like us. This day and every day, let us lean into our discomfort and learn beyond our own experiences. Because we resist change, this day and every day. Let us challenge our understanding and choose the difficult path of transformation. Because we live in a fear of scarcity. This day and every day, let us practice God's abundant love, pray for abundant mercy, and pursue abundant opportunity and justice, not just for ourselves, but for all of God's beloved.
As we have been called, so let us now go, to appreciate the diversity among us, to co-create the beloved community, to expand equity and inclusion, and to unite ourselves in love. Go to work, go to serve, go in peace. Amen.
is a prayer like a wide river. It never ends, does not begin. Around the world, it's always flowing, and I am stepping in. We are stepping in. We are praying with those in distant places, different languages and faces, every hour of the day. And we are praying with enemies and strangers, in gratitude, in danger, calling God's 10,000 names. There is a prayer like a wide river. It never ends, does not begin. Around the world, it's always flowing, and I am stepping in. We are stepping in.